Good morning. Mm. Sharing to all the groups. Good morning. I'll hit the record button in a moment and we will get started. How is everybody today on this beautiful Thursday? Okay. All right. Hit the record. Good morning, everyone. My name is Coach Lacey, and welcome to Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell that you are notified every time I go live. And be sure to join our Facebook group, Rise and Shine with Morning Moon, so you can anchor in with your daily foundations checklist every morning and get the most out of your day. Today is Thursday, April 17th, and this weekend is Easter. We celebrate the resurrection, and it is a profound reminder of the preciousness of life, family, friends, community, and rebirth, and just leaning into our connections and loving the people that we have around us and being thankful. And if we don't have anybody around us, just being thankful for the life that we live and celebrating that. So today in history, let me give a little history lesson here. If you don't already know, today, the Last Supper, I'm sure we're all familiar with the Last Supper. This is the day that the disciples gathered with Jesus for the Last Supper. And that leads me to the topic for this morning of precious moments. Yesterday, we talked about the changes in the seasons of life and how each season carries out its own beauty, grief, love, lessons, growth, pain, all of it. And today I want to expand upon that and talk about the quiet, unnoticed final moments in life that we share with the people we love. We always think that we have this time, right? And there's always a moment where you play your last basketball game for the last time. You play on the playground with your friends for the last time. You hold your child for the last time. The child graduates. These milestones that we have, people pass on. The last time that we have supper with someone we love. And so today I want to talk about those moments, those precious, precious moments. And just think back with me for a moment on one of those moments that seemed so ordinary at the time. Whether it be just dinner around the table with your loved ones, a simple conversation over lunch or coffee, or that casual wave goodbye, the last hug. Excuse me. We don't really think about those moments when we're in them. And I remember many moments. As you can see, I'm reflecting on the moments in my head with you. And the moment that always comes to mind for me, the first moment, there's three distinct moments, actually, but first one that comes to my mind is the hug that I gave my brother for the very last time. when I was saying goodbye to him, dropping him off at his grandparents' house, and he gave him a big hug, and he felt so frail because he had just been through so much. He was a tiny little guy, and but he gave me a really good hug, and it was just a really good Christmas hug. And I remember looking back, and the light was shining on him in the nighttime because it was Christmas Eve, and I dropped him off, and I just remember it was a profound moment, and it was the last time I ever saw him, and it just you never think about it. And then I think about the moment where I walked through my grandmother's house with my uncle Mike, who later passed away, and we were going through her things as she was in the hospital for a stroke. And that was the last time him and I spent together. Then I think about the goodbye that I said to my grandmother when I was visiting my grandfather when he was in the hospital. And when he was in the hospital, I thought he had Legionnaire's disease and COVID, and we thought he was going to pass. And so I was there visiting him, but my grandmother was in the nursing home. And I remember going to see her and thinking, oh, I'll see you again, Grandma. But something inside knew that I wouldn't. And so I stayed with her for just a moment. I remember looking back, and I even took a picture of her saying goodbye to me. It's probably one of the saddest moments of my life. You know, and we don't really realize that these moments are the final, might be the final moments of a chapter in our life, or even the last interaction that we might have with someone that we deeply cherish. And life is profoundly beautiful, but it's profoundly fragile. And it moves so swiftly. And with each moment we have with the people we love are unique, and they're all unrepeatable gifts. And sometimes without realizing it, we find ourselves at the end of a chapter, left with memories that we didn't really realize at the time would be so important. And it's then that we understand the power of legacy that's left behind in by those we've loved and lost, or loved and no longer speak to. Their legacy, their laughter, those inside jokes, those funny moments, those teachings, those lessons we learn, you know, even the bad moments of learning that lives within us. So the question is, how do we honor those moments? And how do we move forward in ways that keep the loved ones we have's memory alive? And maybe they're still alive and we just don't communicate any, you just don't communicate anymore, or, you know, whatever it is, you've lost touch, over time, especially if you move different places and states and things, you lose touch with people and you're as close. So how do you keep the love alive? And the truth is, we honor the ones we love by how we show up every day, how we show up in the world. How do you want to show up in the world? What gifts do you want to give to the world? So think for a moment about someone that you've lost, someone that's passed on that you loved, or someone maybe who's even still here, but your relationship is maybe strained or it's distant. How would you show up differently if you knew this was your last moment with them? Would you soften your tone? Would you maybe not say that thing, offer some forgiveness? or simply speak words of gratitude and love that you might have held back instead of this snarky thing. We talk a lot here about anchoring in, and I hope you've anchored in this morning, which means rooting yourself deeply in mindfulness, gratitude, wellness, and intentional daily rituals and habits and actions. It's essential for making these shifts in our story, and shifts in our environment, and shifts in our communities, and shifts in our overall well-being and health and wellness. It's it's about being fully present and consciously making choices, because the consequences of our choices are due to whether we're conscious or unconscious in those choices and actions. Even in our thoughts, our thoughts create our reality, and our words help to construct that reality, and recognizing the ripple effect in our lives that our thoughts and our words have in the lives of others, we can be more intentional in the way that we show up. So as we move towards the Easter weekend and gathering with people we love, maybe people we don't even know, gathering with friends old and new, um, this is a time for renewal and hope, and ultimately loving each other and building community and lifting one another up. So no matter what you're going through in this time, there's always chaos and the busyness of life and the to-do list and this, that, and the other thing. But I want you to reflect on how you show up each day. Are you just going through the motions and on autopilot, or are you fully present and mindful of how your energy is impacting others? Because if we can be fully present and mindful of how our energy impacts others, we can create a ripple effect of wellness and positivity, even when we are going through a negative time. So be mindful of how your energy impacts the world and the ripple effect that it has. And, think about what steps you can take each day to mend broken relationships and to reach out and heal an old wound, or perhaps just simply express emotions uh, of love and appreciation and gratitude to someone important to you, even if you've had a moment, because those moments pass, and someday it will be the last moment and a new season will begin. And seasons come and go, and people come and go, and people come into our lives for lessons, and then they leave, and sometimes they reappear, and sometimes they're gone for good. And so we just have to honor everything in our life, and allow the ones we love legacy to guide us in our actions and inspire the way that we live. We have to, how do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to show up in the world? That's something one of my mentors used to ask me, Dr. Allegra. She would always ask me, how do you want to show up in the world? And I've pondered this question for years and years and years. And so take some time today to ponder how you want to show up in the world, how you want to impact your community. Do you want to be impacting your community through chaos and drama and, the next drama, or do you want to impact your community through healing, uniting, and, you know, loving care? So just take some time today to journal on these thoughts. Write down your, names and memories and intentional steps you can take to anchor in, and just remind yourself that every interaction counts and every moment holds a potential for a memory. And that legacy is built, our legacy and other people's legacies are built through memories, but those memories are built moment to moment. And so make sure that it's, intentional, and be intentional in how you show up, you know. And the way that we can honor Jesus and be like Jesus, or what would Jesus do? Remember that from the 90s, what would Jesus do? This is Easter. This is about Jesus. And even if you don't believe in Jesus, why would you hate on something that's so beautiful, even if you think it's just a story? It's a beautiful story. So ponder it. Even if you don't believe, ponder the story of Jesus. You know, I believe. I believe. And what is wrong with believing? Believing in hope and love and forgiveness and compassion. So embody that this weekend, and as you move forward in your life, not just this weekend, but start now and show up intentionally, and choose peace over power, and over conflict, and over chaos, and choose love. If you have to choose anything, choose love. Love people for their struggles. There's love in the struggle. There's beauty in the struggle. Love people for what you wish that they would be. Love them anyways. Everybody wishes those around us are a different way, but they're not. They're who they are, so love them. And that's how we can just make an intentional generational ripple effect in the world of wellness and love. So show up intentional and make heartfelt connections this weekend, and renew your purpose, and have gratitude for all of the beautiful things that you have in your life. And make sure to stay anchored, and be mindful. Go for a beautiful walk in the sunshine. Try to eat good whole foods. Drink your water. Journal. Read. Get some rest. Anchor in. And if you need a little assistance anchoring in, be sure to join the Rise and Shine with Morning Moon group on Facebook, and check in every morning with the Daily Foundations checklist. There's a downloadable checklist at my website, www.lacyjwatson.com. You can download the Release Foundations guide, and there you'll have the checklist and the seasonal check-in of Circle of Life. And I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Thursday. We have one more day until the weekend. I hope it is a wonderful one. So just relish in those precious moments. It's kind of a hard one for me today. So think about those precious moments with your people. And maybe you haven't lost anybody. Maybe you've never lost anyone that you've loved in your life. And maybe you've just, got started on your journey. But just know that every moment is a blessing, and every moment is precious. Okay, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Ciao.